Hey, what's up, y'all? So, I just want to get on here real quick and get some thoughts out. Probably won't share this video, but it's more like a little bit of a rough draft, a rough copy. But yeah, it's life is such a trip, man. You know, I want you guys to know, like, if you're going through any struggles right now, whether it's depression or you're taking care of loved ones that have mental health issues or are going whatever you're going through. Um, and maybe life's grand and great, and I'm so happy for you. But I just want you guys to know, like, just how loved you are. And it's interesting how we come into this reality and we search externally for love outside of ourselves, and then more often than not, we might think we're falling in love, or we did fall and have love for somebody, and we project our own light, our own love on those people, if that makes sense, to where, you know, those people were kind of like the catalyst for you to feel love in your life and to have that expansion in your chest. But oftentimes what ends up happening is life happens, people change, um, and I would say that more often than not, people get heartbroken about it, and understandably so. I myself, you know, boy, oh, I got what a journey I've been on, man. It's been like Homer's Odyssey, just fucking something else. But anyways, not to get out too off track there with my thought, but that for me, it has been such a fucking journey of having my heart broken over and over again, and to finally not search outside of myself for that sense of well-being and for that love. And now I can really, through years of kind of reprogramming my mind and doing a self-care practice and self-love, um, I'm starting to actually figure out how this works, and how you and all of us really, at the core of our being, are just, we have this infinite love within us that is just waiting to be tapped into. And this universe, man, I tell you, it's like such a paradox, and it's like such a mystery. Kind of like, it's like the universe shrouds itself in mystery. And and it takes so much in order for us to actually love ourselves and to discover our own heart, really. And it's just, it's incredible for me. I finally have been able to uh, genuinely like the person in the mirror, and I've been a fuck up for pretty much most of my adult life. um, Part of it was like, I chose it. On the other hand, a lot of it was circumstantial. um, I was always one of the smartest kids in the class, but I was also very sensitive, and I'd get overwhelmed really easily, to the point where, like, a new subject would get introduced, and I would actually, if I didn't get it like right away, I'd get overwhelmed, and I'd fucking start bawling, and I would get super embarrassed, and the whole classroom would be looking at me. And this all ties into my whole journey, and I'll try and keep it somewhat clear and concise here as much as I can. And so, uh, I've always said, my sensitivities are like a blessing and a curse. It's like a double edged sword. And I didn't really know how to manage it. And so, you know, throughout school, I would get it would just like this massive overwhelm if I didn't get a subject right away, because I wanted to be the first to get it and everything else. And it happened quite a bit throughout elementary school, and I can still remember all the distinct events of when I, you know, would just start. I have a meltdown, and anyways, I always knew it was a little bit different. You know, like all the other kids didn't really make sense to me how they were so like insensitive and just mean. You know, and anyways, you know, I all the girls that I was always interested in ended up getting with the guys that were the jerks, the jocks, the assholes, and then the girl would usually end up getting hurt by the guy, and then the girl would act like she was surprised and didn't really understand why, even though it was like the guy was telling him all these, basically putting it out there and letting him know, like, this is how I am as a person, and for whatever reason, girls are drawn to the bad guy, and you know, here I was basically just completely ignored, even though I was like one of the better looking kids. I was one of the smartest, best looking, most athletic, everything. But I was also putting off, I didn't realize at the time I was putting off this energy that was just like, it was keeping everybody and everything away from me. And that energy just being really feeling alienated and rejected. And that then led into me just being falling into a real deep depression and being isolated. And as a teenager, I just basically shut down and, you know, was very depressed and borderline suicidal, and basically fell into smoking weed and playing video games. And then, um, you know, and it was just easier for me to not interact with people. It was just easier for me to be by myself. It was, you know, it was genuinely painful for me to be out and about amongst people, and my social awkwardness and shyness was just, it just got worse, you know. And I didn't know what to do. My family didn't know what to do, and you know, I tried seeking help, and went to a doctor and a therapist, and both of them, you know, after a period of time, ended up saying, "Oh well, you know, we've got this medication that's been shown to really help with depression and so on and so forth." And the first doctor, Dr. Thompson, he prescribed me Zoloft, and I took that for about a month, I think, when I was like 14 or 15 years old or something like that. And then I ended up doing some research on it, as you know, and that's when I saw that suicide was actually one of the side effects of it. And I noticed that, you know, the Zoloft wasn't doing anything for me really. I didn't notice any effect from it. And so I just told the doctor, you know, I'm not, you know, I don't feel like I'm getting any benefit out of it. And then also, why am I taking something that, you know, has a side effect of suicide? And, you know, and I remember him saying, well, you know, it takes time for the, you know, the medicine to work and so on and so forth. But I wasn't having it. And then I remember by the time I saw the mental health therapist, they, you know, listened to me for the first few sessions, but I could tell they weren't really listening to me, you know. And then after, you know, then he then made his spiel about, well, we've got, you know, this medication that could help with your depression and anxiety, and um, and I stopped seeing him like immediately, and I was just like, fuck this. You know, I was pissed. And uh, so anyways, you know, just continued being basically lone wolf throughout high school. I got good grades up in, you know, all throughout high school until I about June, sophomore, junior, and senior year. I really started to rebel, and I just started to not give a fuck. I was so angry and just out of it, and um, still managed to graduate somehow. And I remember that I got introduced into drinking, and fucking loved it. Liked it almost better than weed. And um, here I am, 36 now, and finally realizing that, oh man, I got a drinking problem, and never really thought of it as a problem. It's like shit makes me feel good, so how could it be? How could it be a problem? And then I just, yeah, it was like this fucking evil genius like side of me came out, to where I was like, I stopped being this shy fucking introverted kid, and I was just this fucking party animal, dude, and just fucking partying my ass off. But I was also one of those people that would get like fucking super sick, like really sick too, like just puking and dry heaving, just horrible fucking. And it's amazing, you would, for somebody like to go through that, you would think that you go through that enough times, over and over again, and you'd probably stop. You'd think that that would stop you, but it didn't. No, it didn't stop me. I'd shake off the pain, because honestly, the physical pain of it, although very unpleasant, being hungover and having basically alcohol poisoning, um, wasn't anything near to the emotional pain and angst that I felt. And I didn't realize that I was using this as a tool. Or not even a tool is not the right word. I was using it really as a crutch, because I didn't know what else to do. And like I said, so my buddy, he introduced me to drinking, and we started drinking a lot. Had a fucking ball. Then I met this girl when she liked to drink a lot, and I got into drinking even more with her. And you know, I'm not gonna sit here and like be regretful about it. It is what it is. I had a hell of a time. Like, I had the best years of my life, I would say, actually doing some of that. Um, and then being able to break out of that bubble, being able to break out of that pain that I was in, and only to figure out so many years down the road why I was depressed, anxious, and everything else in the first place. And that's a whole nother topic in itself. But now I can really genuinely have compassion for people who have the struggle, who go through the struggle. And it really is like a health, mental illness. I don't know, that might be a little bit too strong of terminology for some people. But I would say, looking back at it now, it went from being like a depressed and angry kid to pretty much like fucking psycho. And I would call it basically like controlled chaos is what I was, just fucking reckless, danger to myself and others. And I'm amazed that I've made it this far. And I've just been so like compelled to share my story now, because I see so many young kids nowadays going through similar things, the self-destructive behaviors, the wanting to escape out of reality. And I totally get why now. Like, for me, uh, you know, being born into a family that had not so obvious mental health issues, but they did, um, which was further then compounded by being in a society that's heavily ill. Society has a mental illness, and it's actually encouraged and promoted, and it's very subtle that it goes doesn't doesn't register with us very much on how it's all being played out. And like, again, it's okay. I'll just go into it real quick, but basically, depression comes from two main things. One being unexpressed energy that gets trapped throughout your body, and trauma, and then there's the environmental, circumstantial, like intentional poisoning of people through, I got all the childhood vaccines in 1988. There's a lot of them, um, mixed with, uh, fluoride throughout school, flu shots, school foods, microwave junk food, fast food, boxed canned food. I mean, um, so all these things kind of coupled together, and it was like I can look back at it now and I go, well, no wonder I was so fucked up. It's like fuck, and I can look back at it now and really just have compassion and empathy for myself. And part of me sharing my story is getting some of this energy that's been kind of bound up within me for basically my entire life, getting it out there, and so that I can let these kids out there know that are going through the same struggle, like younger versions of me out there, that you know um, there is a solution for it, and just keep going, keep keep going, and I'm gonna be helping with future generations to get out of this suffering that so many of us are experiencing. And it seems like society still does not have the correct solutions. You still have just doctors and therapists, excuse me, just wanting to prescribe medications for people and put a band-aid over what's actually going on with the young people in our world nowadays. And it's just an absolute tragedy, really, what's going on and how it's still going on. It's just it's fucked up. It's really fucked up. Like, we live in an evil ass fucking society, and this is where I disagree with a lot of the spiritual gurus and stuff out there that say, "Oh, everything's perfect," and blah, everything in the universe is perfect, and maybe I'm just not there yet or something. But a lot of these people who say this stuff haven't really, like, well, I shouldn't say they haven't struggled. Everybody's had their struggles. We just, like I said, well, we can agree to disagree on that one. But you know, basically, um, that's going to be like, that's one of my passions, is helping the younger generation and actually providing the solutions to that. And it's really, you know, there's so many things, but there is a way, and I've found it through my own experience, to be able to actually open your heart up and experience your own heart and your own light and your love, and it washes all that pain and all that suffering away, and you transmute it, you change it from like lead into gold, basically. And we do have that power, and I've found it just recently. and wish I'd found it sooner. Would have saved myself a whole lot of trouble, a whole lot of suffering. But that's been the journey that I've been on, and so it's our society needs to change big time, and I see efforts going on here and there, but I don't see like there's not like a real big movement towards communal living inside Earth ships, geo geo ships that have all your food and your resources right there, so that way a family can be a family again. Um, there can be love in the household instead of constant stress and angst. They can have all their food and their resources right there. And we have, unfortunately, these agents of chaos out there that are battling against all of that. They do not. They want to keep us basically enslaved, and so that's what we're kind of up against. But once once this idea actually really begins to catch on with people, and it really kind of is actually already. There's quite a big movement, but it's still not big enough in my opinion. Then things will change, and these agents of chaos are, you know, they're going to switch sides. A lot of them are going to realize, like, holy shit, what have I been doing? And a part of it's because they're under the spell too. This collective psychosis, this mental like illness that um, basically, I would say, plagues most of the world. And uh, even for those at the puppet masters at the top too, like uh, they're deluded by their ego. They're deluded by they've been absolutely corrupted by the power that they have. And so the thing is like, and I've seen this and I've felt it within myself, is that Earth is really just a school for refining out the impurities in your soul. And so when you die, then you get to look back at you get your life review, and you get to see and feel like, what did you contribute? And then based off of what you contributed in this lifetime, it comes back to you in the next lifetime, your next incarnation. Because you know there's the whole multiverse idea where basically everything exists all at once simultaneously. And so their soul just gets recycled back into, you know, a version of hell that they created in this lifetime. But they end up being on the receiving end of it. And they end up having to go through lifetimes of paying back, you know, what what they what they did, until they finally decide that they want to let go of their wickedness and their dark heart and actually ascend. That's actually what they want. That's what we're all moving towards, is ascension. But we have, you know, certain forces at work that are preventing that, and trying and basically have hijacked most of this world and most people's uh, most people's reality. Excuse me. And so, you know, this whole transition that humanity's going through is it's epic. I mean, it's so epic, but at the same time, like, when we're here in this physical form, it's fucking, a lot of us aren't having a very good time, and it's because of these agents of chaos and these evil pukes that are, you know, doing this to humanity, and it's like, I don't hear like any of these, you know, health coaches or life coaches and gurus. I don't hear them talking about how, basically there's this spiritual war that's disconnected people from their higher self. And that's why, and then everything within our society and everything within our culture, it's all promoted for degradation and for you basically, basically programs us to like self-destruct. And we get stuck in our lower nature, and then they just get to basically rob the world blind. And you know um, so it, like I say, you know there's a price to pay for everything. And you guys can redeem yourselves in this lifetime. You can atone for what you've done. You can repent. But a lot of them are going to take it to the grave with them. But once people really really have the awakening of what's going on, their numbers are going to go down drastically, because nobody really wants to be a part of what they have. So once people actually discover their own divinity in their own heart, they're not going to participate or cooperate with these people anymore. Even a lot of people in these own families that are evil and wicked as fuck are going, I don't really want to do this anymore. And you know, so the shift is definitely taking place. But our whole system that we live in, and we're all kind of caught up in this rat race, and we're dancing ourselves to death basically. It's not going to, it's going to be a little bit of a bumpy ride, and that's the other point that I want to get to. And before I make this video too long, is that there's this push to get us all into smart cities, 15-minute cities, and not own, not have any life or whatever. And it's basically like a concentration camp that they're getting us to build for ourselves. And that's where they're keep getting pushing everybody off the cliff by keeping them in a constant state of fear, keeping them on the hamster wheel of life, chasing the carrot, not able to really create anything of their own. Because a lot of people, if you're in a traumatized, fearful state, you're only able to see things through like a very kind of small window, kind of a narrow perspective. You can't really zoom out and see like there's a much better way for humanity to be. And so like I mentioned earlier, the alternative is like to the 15-minute cities and everything, is people living off grid. And it's the solutions are all there, right? It's just that people don't really know about earth ships and how to go about living off the land, and not doing so in a way that's like back to fucking backbreaking labor, slave labor and whatnot, but to actually live a very enjoyable and fulfilling, happy life, And so anyways, that's all I got for right now. That was quite a bit. Went a bit longer than I thought I would, but it needs to be said, and it needs to be talked about more, because again, there's so many people out there that are just needlessly suffering, and I suffered for so long, and I thank God I finally figured out how to get out of it. But most people aren't going to be as persistent as I am. I'm, by most societal standards, crazy. The things that I've done and been through, like, are crazy. And that's kind of one of the edges that I've got, is that I am fearless. I really have no fear of death. And there's, yeah. So, anyways, it's time, been long past time for humanity to finally evolve and transition into a higher consciousness and not be in this state of arrested development, basically. And you know it's time that people withdraw their cooperation and their participation. And I'm talking about, the people that can make those changes. I'm not, unfortunately, one of those people. I'm a little bit late to the scene. I If I had the money and the know and all, everything to do it, I would. I've got the idea, I've got the vision. So do a lot of people. But you have basically all the rich people trying to take us in the wrong direction. Now, I'm not to say that rich people are evil or anything. They just they don't really know what they're doing. They actually have good intentions, but they don't realize that, the sustainable development goals and going along with World Economic Forum green agenda is complete and total enslavement of humanity and further suffering. And I think for a lot of people, it's going to be just unavoidable, to be honest. Because like I said, I know how hard it is to get out of that mind matrix. And I haven't met anybody else like me, that actually gets it, that like legitimately fucking like can see through all the bullshit. They're out there, but I just haven't made contact with them. Anyways, yeah, that's all I got, and I just want you guys to know, man, like keep going, through whatever struggle, and I hope you find your heart someday. If you haven't already, like it's the most beautiful, like incredible thing that we can experience in this human experience, really.